Morning all, just to follow up on the battery size video for the Kona. There's been lots and lots of comments, and it's interesting to see that the majority of people would go for the larger battery size so far. And that makes you think, doesn't it? You know, if Hyundai have done the same sort of research, what's the point of them releasing a 40 kilowatt battery if nobody wants it? Now, I know nobody isn't nobody, because I'm still considering it, and there are other people that did say yes, they'd want it, but the majority of people don't. The majority of people seem to want the larger battery size, and they'll probably want the larger spec as well. So maybe they'll go for the Tesla route of launching the most expensive to start with, and then later launching the 40 kilowatt, a reduced spec version. Who knows? But thank you for watching so far. Thanks for your comments. Really, really helpful. I really am enjoying the discussion and the points being raised. I just wanted to quickly mention something else as well. This morning I sat over breakfast and looked at my phone and did some map distances using Google Maps, and as you can see here, I've got some destinations that I might need to go to, or I will be going to over time, and I just want to see how they fit in and how many miles range I would need to get there. So firstly we have Brighton. Well, Brighton is easily reachable in under 200 miles. So that's just not an issue for either of the battery sizes. Next on my list was Hook, near Basingstoke. Well, according to Google Maps, it's 201 miles away, which is on the upper limits of what I could do with the smaller battery version. But if you change the route and put in, rather than the quickest route, you put in the one of the shortest routes, only 177, so Hook in Basingstoke, reachable as well with the smaller battery size. And I think this continues. The more I look, the more that the destinations I'm likely to go to, and most destinations for me in the UK are reachable with the smaller battery size or the larger battery size. Yes, I would need to destination charge when I get there, but that would be my plan anyway. So very, very interesting. So two places I couldn't quite reach that I'd need to do some charging on. Bournemouth, getting from Norfolk, from the far eastern side of the country, all the way down to one of the southern points of the country, is 235 miles. So that's not quite reachable. So I'd have to stop somewhere to gain some charge if I had the smaller battery version. And then of course Edinburgh. Well, if I want to go up to Scotland or the Lake District, then it's going to be a huge trip from Norfolk, and I'm basically not going to make it on a single charge. But that's not a problem. It's what I'd expect. So I'd have to incorporate in a stop for a charge. How much of a charge depends on exactly how far I'm going. If I'm going all the way up to Thurso at the very top of Scotland, then it would be an absolutely mammoth trek. And I'm unlikely to want to do that in a single day. I'm likely to stop at some point and have a nice overnight. I can take my time and enjoy the trip. So I'm not really fussed about not being able to get to Scotland on a single charge, or having to be able to get to a rapid charger and charge within 30 minutes. I'm not under time constraints. So for me, my analysis looks like I'm fine with 200 plus miles. Although there's a lot of arguments that the 64 kilowatt hour is the right battery, and depending on the cost differential, it would be the one I'd go for, depending on cost. Anyway, just wanted to update you on that. The next thing I want to talk about was preheating and preheating of cars. I've mentioned before that I think the Kona is going to blow some of the competition away. I don't think it's going to in respect of preheating. I saw a video a short while ago by somebody talking about how many kilowatts were used in the preheating, and was basically saying how good preheating is. In the winter, if you're leaving your car outside and you want it toasty warm for when you get there and defrosted so you don't have to scrape ice, etc., then it's a really cool feature being able to turn your car on remotely as and when you want to, so your car is ready for you to go. Now the Nissan Leaf does that really, really well because it has an app to do it. So that's the interface it uses, which is very good. Having said that, the interface does use text messaging. In the background, after you've sent a request for your car to preheat, the Nissan Service Centre sends a text to your car. So it is reliant upon your car being able to receive a text. So you've got to be in an area where you can receive mobile texts, which my driveway can't. I can't receive text there, so for me, the Nissan Leaf preheating, wonderful feature, but it wouldn't work here at my house anyway. But the Kona, well, the Kona works in the similar way to the Ioniq. It works on a time schedule. So if your car is plugged in, so that's a big if it's plugged into the charger, and if you've set the timer schedule, then it will preheat. But if you're not charging, and you haven't set a timer schedule, then you can't preheat it. So that doesn't work that well for people like me that aren't regular commuters. So if I was a regular commuter, a time schedule works absolutely fine, and you charge every day, not an issue. But for me, that I'm not going to drive the car every day, and the time I go out will vary every time, then I really need an ad hoc way of telling the car to preheat. So I'm not really happy that the Kona only has a scheduled way of preheating. So I'm not sure what the answer to that is. What's disappointing about it is that Hyundai have launched an ability to preheat your car, not just electric cars, but petrol cars. But they only appear to be launching it in the US. I saw this over a year ago, and they call it Hyundai Blue Link. And basically it's exactly what you'd expect. It's a mobile app, and it communicates with the car over a service. And with the American cars, you get 3 years of this service included with the car. And it can turn the car on, so it's ready for you, and it can also preheat the car, and it gives you all the statistics about the car and the range, and it's a really good system which should be developed, and they said over a year ago they were developing it for greater distribution and greater use. But lo and behold, we're still here over a year later and nothing. And that's what I find really disappointing. The car manufacturers don't appear to have the resources or the inclination to change software. So getting software updates out of car manufacturers, I'm not so convinced that that's something that is reasonable to expect. Tesla seem to be the exception to that. They understand software and have focused on it heavily and are capable of turning around software updates quite quickly. So why can't Hyundai do that? I mean, I'm a programmer in my background, so I've programmed various computer systems for 30 years. And programming's not difficult. Once you are a programmer and you know how to program, then all you need to understand to get a preheating of a car is the interface of the car and the interface of the input. And then you've got a conversion of those interfaces in the middle. The only choice is the method of how to communicate that command. Now, the text message issue with the Nissan Leaf, yeah, I think that's old and basic technology and rather limiting. I don't think that's the future. They really should have implemented the Wi-Fi hotspot in the car and then have a timer to turn on the schedule for the Wi-Fi, or have it manually overridden in the car. And that way, your car isn't draining battery all the time, constantly searching for a network, constantly searching for information. As and when you turn the Wi-Fi hotspot on, your car would then start to look for information. So mobile interfaces aren't the right thing to use, in my opinion. It's a shame that the Leaf uses that, because then otherwise I'd be able to say, the Leaf's got a really well working feature that the Kona doesn't beat in that respect. But for me personally, actually, the Leaf system doesn't work either because I can't receive mobile signals. But it looks like the Kona's not going to have a feature that suits me either. So in the winter time, if I'm in the garage, I'm absolutely fine. But preheating and defrosting my car will have to be something that I do in advance, planning when I'm going to get up and go out the next day and set the schedule for the car. And that's a bit disappointing, it's a bit awkward. I would prefer something a bit better. So that's what I want to talk about today, preheating and the Kona's interface not being as good as the Nissan Leafs and not being an advancement upon where it was with the Ioniq. So I hope you find that useful. I hope for those people considering a Kona, you now know what to expect from it, and I look forward to updating you further with other information. Thanks again for watching. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.